Sponsored by Local Touch Online, a free online magazine that has an exclusive article by Pop Culture Geekery every month. Also sponsored by City Bakery in San Marcos, fresh baked goods that include pan dulce, cakes, cookies, and even homemade tortillas. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pop Culture Geekery. I'm Joe Solis, and I've got a special guest host, Phillip Tieman. Now I'm gonna mess up on your first name now.
Yeah, that's quite all right. No worries. That happens all the time. So
it's different, right? People usually mess up the last name, so I purposely mess up your first name. So, and how many L's, by the way?
2 L's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, distinction in culture.
So for those of you who've been following our channel, you know that we have made friends with fellow YouTubers, Phillip and Trina. So if you haven't checked out their YouTube channel, it's Good Times NB. Because for those of you who don't know, we live here in New Braunfels, Texas, and so there's a lot of cool stuff to do. And these guys are the ones to tell you what to do and where to check it out and keep you up with what's up to date. So I don't think I've ever asked y'all. I mean, this might be a better Trina question, but what inspired y'all to start that channel?
Yeah, that'd be more her question, but I know what the answer is. I think it's this family or this couple that we follow that's on YouTube that lives in Florida, and they do a lot of videos about like Disney World and stuff to do in Florida. But we really like their channel and their style and how they treat it sort of like home movies too. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we try to do. We're documenting memories and then sharing them also with you guys. Mm-hmm. So check us out. Good Times in Me.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of your memories cross over into the nerdy, geeky pop culture side. So that's kind of where apparently I guess we caught y'all's attention, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But so we decided to bring this to you tonight. So for those of you who are Kevin Smith fans, or if you're not, we're going to educate you tonight because Kevin Smith is a filmmaker that I got to know when he was up and coming in the 90s. So he's done, he has his own universe basically that he calls the View Askew universe. I've tried to research why he calls it that. Do you know why he calls it that?
I'm not entirely sure. I think just when he started his company back to do Clerks, I think that's just what he decided to call it was View Askew, just because I guess they see things differently, I suppose, which if you have seen any of his movies, you'll understand that.
For sure, yeah. And the view becomes more askewed as time goes on, I've noticed with his movies. So, but yeah, so, just a quick rundown, from all the way back in 1994, he had Clerks, which is definitely one of those success stories. I think he put it all on his credit card or something to pay for it. It was filmed overnight at a, local convenience store. I actually got introduced to him when he did his second movie, which was Mallrats. And then after that is when we pretty much followed him. He did Chasing Amy after that, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2. This one I compared Jay and Bob's super groovy cartoon movie in 2013.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. I came on with Clerks 2, went and saw it with some friends, didn't know anything about any of it, and was in physical pain in the theater laughing. It was so funny. And then I kind of worked backwards from there. But yeah, I haven't seen the super groovy cartoon movie either. That's the only one.
Wait, you started with Clerks 2?
Yeah. I did, and I didn't really get any of the continuing references, but it was just so funny. And then shortly after that, I watched Clerks, and then Mallrats, and I think the only one I have not seen Chasing Amy to be completely honest. Okay. So I haven't seen that one, but
yeah, and I mean he's done other movies that don't fall in this universe per se, but of course the one we're going over tonight is called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Which does take place in the View Askew universe, but apparently some of his non-View Askew universe movies kind of get poked fun at in this one, I noticed. So, this is definitely one of those movies. If you're not a Kevin Smith fan, oh, by the way, we're just gonna talk full spoilers because this movie. Here's something to talk about. This movie actually released on my birthday. It released on October 15th of last year. But I was so confused as the release schedule of this movie. It seems like it was part of a road tour
Probably.
not a traditional release, right?
That, from what I understand about the cartoon movie, because I listened to Fat Man on Batman, which is Kevin Smith's podcast, or at least I did at the time. They were kind of touring the movie and the podcast, so that makes sense that this would have been like a roadshow kind of thing. That they were probably trying to get it into theaters and had to do what they had to do, I suppose.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it never had an official release. Because I know, for example, around here we have the Alamo Draft House, and I mean they're all about helping up and coming creators and famous. I mean he's not up and coming, but he's famous at this point. But this movie, it seems like he, I guess, obviously financed it on his own. And I guess the road show was just to promote it. So he kind of, because he's a stand-up comedian too. So he kind of combined that aspect of himself with the movie aspect. So I guess it was pretty unique in that respect. But, I don't know. Do you think it's just because of the way things are with movies nowadays? He just figured not bother go through a studio and possibly lose money.
Probably so, and it probably gives him the freedom to work with who he wants to work with. Put his daughter in it. Again, spoiler alert: his daughter. Should we talk about the plot? I guess we're about to get into what there is of a plot. But if you've seen, so it's sort of a sequel, but really more like a reboot, which they go into the distinction to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where they're going to Hollywood to stop the movie being made about the characters based on them. If you've seen the movie, it makes sense. And in this one, they find out that they are rebooting the movie. So they're off to Hollywood again. And along the way, Jay finds out that he has a daughter that comes also from the first movie, from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, apparently. And so that's kind of the main dynamic of the movie, is him and his daughter. And he doesn't tell her for the longest time. And she doesn't realize that he's her father. And she's pretty torn up about it and everything. But where was I going with this?
You wanted to tell us the plot of the movie.
Oh yeah, because I was gonna say he got to have his daughter in it. So the actress playing the character that is Jay's daughter is Kevin Smith's daughter, which of course Kevin Smith plays Silent Bob. So that's just kind of a funny thing. And they nod at that. So they break the fourth wall probably more times than Deadpool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of where they all stop and look at the camera, or they acknowledge that they just made a joke that shouldn't make sense in their universe. Kevin Smith pokes fun at himself a lot in this movie, which he does a lot in general, like in his podcast and his comedy. So there's a lot of that coming through.
So one thing I wanted to bring up, speaking of the title of the movie, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, I think they even kind of make fun of this in the movie. At first, I thought he was serious. I thought it was an actual reboot. So I actually was worried, and I cringed the first time he released the name of this. And I was like, "Oh no, don't do that for real." But I didn't know what we all just said, that he obviously has more control over this, because there's so much stuff in this movie that I think a lot of studios would have made him cut out. So it definitely was a good example of a creator, being able to do what they want, but he's come a long way through a lot of other, experiences in movie making to get to this point, kind of like George Lucas once upon a time. So.
Yeah, definitely. Which I think he would be very flattered to be compared to George Lucas. Probably. Kevin Smith is at heart a huge nerd and a fan, which I think shows in his work. It shows in this too. There's a lot of references to other just pop culture stuff that they love. So.
Yeah, because actually, I got a one message response from for those of you who follow our channel podcast. They talk about podcasts so much in that movie. I was just like, Roy's Toy Box, and he unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, but he did watch it on his own, and he sent me a one-line message that said, "Wow, that was rough," So obviously, I guess he didn't enjoy it as much, but. It's interesting because Kevin Smith, the tone of his movies has changed over time. The ones that are in this universe. And I kind of remember feeling that way with Clerks too. There was definitely some funny parts and whatnot. But, some of the early movies are definitely different, but they're all different. Clerks is his own thing. Mallrats honestly is more of that goofy style that this is. And maybe that's why... depending on which Kevin Smith movie you like, because I would say, you said you haven't seen Chasing Amy.
Right.
funny enough, I would say that's his quote unquote normal movie out of this universe. Um, because then right after that he does Dogma, which deals with God and angels and everything. So it's like he really normal movie to way out there, which is probably honestly his most, I guess, ambitious one. And you've seen Dogma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which just turned 20 years old. um, so yeah, so his is like most franchises, I guess, that you kind of have to start at the beginning. Although I think you were fortunate that you enjoyed Clerks and got to backtrack, right?
Yeah, it worked out for me. I think partially because I was there with a group. It just that always helps with comedy, I think. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we just thought it was hilarious. So
Yeah, and I know that one thing about Clerks, when I was just kind of going through, and it was funny, but it was almost like mind-numbingly funny. I was just like, okay, this is like, okay, I'm already ready for this to end. And then they had kind of a nice like heartfelt moment in the jail at the end of Clerks 2, and all I remember is that they somehow justified why they were still clerks after that time period passed. There's a lot more of that here with the whole Jay and his daughter story. So I know you picked up on that because you mentioned that it got very heartfelt there towards the end.
yeah, definitely. I mean, throughout the whole thing, and like you were saying, there's always a little bit of heart in a Kevin Smith movie amidst all the incredibly obscene comedy, which this movie is incredibly obscene. But there's a lot of heart, and there's a lot with the relationship between Jay and his daughter. There's a moment with Ben Affleck where he's talking about his character's very young child, which is actually Jay's daughter, which is really cool that you get to see both of their kids, because that's really what the movie's about. But he's talking about how our kids are our reboots, and that's it stops being about you and starts being about their story. And I think that was just Kevin Smith talking about his kid, and that was really, I don't know. I think it really felt like it came from the heart. But then there's even stuff when they're talking about reboots, they come at it from both sides. They come at it from the side of, why does this have to happen? The very cynical, like they're going to not make any more original movies in Hollywood, and they're just going to reboot the reboots. But it also, someone else defends it and says, I think it's amazing that this stuff that meant so much to me all these years ago means so much to all these people now. And isn't that worth celebrating? So it's kind of an interesting, it's an attack on the reboot and a cynical look at the reboot, but it's also a heartfelt defense of reboot culture, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he does very well with that, because also, for those of you who don't know, Kevin Smith almost died of a heart attack last year, and they even put that in the movie, So
He jokes about that this, it's so weird that Kevin Smith plays himself in this movie directing the reboot, and he talks about how, I had a heart attack last year, so I was able to guilt all these actors into being in this movie. He's talking about the movie that we're sitting and watching, which is just really funny. There's a lot of stuff like that in it.
Yeah, what do they refer to that? Very meta,
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, very meta, very fourth wall breaking stuff. Yeah, it's just funny.
Yeah, but I think the bottom line with this movie, and part of why I wanted to talk about it too, is because I know you're a fan, and and I missed it. We did try to track it down. I think me and Roy had talked about possibly doing one of the shows in Austin, but there was only like the nosebleed seats left, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So it was a unique opportunity, and I know he's still doing the road show, so depending on what state you're in, go check out his website, and I'm sure he may be in your neighborhood if it's something you want to check out. But I think ultimately, kind of like you with Clerks 2, if at this point you still haven't seen Kevin Smith movies, I mean, try to start at the beginning with the Clerks, but you may be like Phillip and just pick a good one, and because there's a whole library. I think it's only in the second half of the movies they start kind of narrowing down on Jay and Silent Bob, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, definitely.
Because a lot of the early people, characters from, I guess, would be the first half of these movies, they do show up. But I don't remember how many of them were actually in Clerks 2. I know Matt Damon was.
yeah, it's interesting too. Yeah, and with Jay and Silent Bob in those first couple of movies, they're really very bit side characters just for, occasional gags here and there. And then when Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is the first, like, really about them. So yeah, it's cool to see them back. But yeah, it's like people from almost every one of these Kevin Smith movies show up in this movie in some way, shape, or form in some kind of cameo.
Yeah. So, as those of you know, when we give a rating, we do it on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being an average movie. Basically, I saw it, I'm done with it. Not really going to say anything about it one way or the other. So, do you have anything else you wanted to go over before we give our ratings?
I think that about covers it. Yeah, it was heartfelt. It was funny. It was obscene. It's very Kevin Smith. So.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, is that, it's going to determine what level of Kevin Smith fan you are, because it has evolved over time. It's changed. It could be split into tribes. Maybe Clerks to Dogma is like the first generation, because once Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back happens, I think that's when the tonal shift happens. So maybe that's the cutoff point for some of y'all. But because I kind of felt like it was for me a little bit. Like, I did watch the ones that came starting with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back forward, minus the cartoon. But I did notice it took me, I don't know why, until this movie to realize just complete tonal shift. So take that for what you will. But you want to rate it first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go ahead. I'll probably give it a solid like 8.5. I greatly enjoyed it. I'll probably be watching it again. We have an Amazon subscription, so because that's what we viewed it on. Okay, yeah, you can go check it out on Amazon. Yeah, I greatly enjoyed it, so I give it an 8.5 for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I was almost there. The heartfelt moments, kept pushing me to an 8. But then we get back to the silliness, and I was just like, I can't give into nostalgia and all that. I have to put in, but it's still a Kevin Smith movie, so I think I'm just going to settle on a solid 7. Just that I enjoyed it. It had its moments. It's still not up there. I'd almost have to rate only Kevin Smith's movies amongst themselves. Because I would have to say probably my two favorites would. I want to say Mallrats is definitely my favorite, just because that was my entry point, and it feels like I can't match anything. But Dogma comes close for me, because Dogma is just like a very unique piece. So what do you think? With obviously minus Chasing Amy, what do you think in all the ones you've seen so far?
Well, I want to go back, like you're saying. I kind of want to go back and watch the older ones again, because I think my favorites are definitely Clerks and Clerks 2, and then I would probably put this one on that top 3 list for me. Yeah, and I haven't seen Dogma since high school, so I definitely want to watch that one again. But because it's definitely, yeah, I would agree that I guess you could say it's his maturation as an artist or a filmmaker or a writer, or however you want to say it. But there's definitely an evolution to the work.
And apparently it's going to keep going, because I think we're getting Clerks 3 and Mallrats 2. So
they kind of joke about that too, about how it's like, oh, Hollywood won't let you make sequels anymore. Not even something about like not even mousy sequels or something. Yeah. But they make a joke about how he's been trying to get Mallrats 2 made for a while with no luck. So hopefully this gives him a little bit of a boost back into the limelight.
Yeah, I mean, if this is successful with him funding himself and just doing his road tour and getting people, his true fans. I mean, he's got enough of a fan base that, he can thrive off of that. But, obviously new people all the time still discovering him. So anyway, so we just want to let you guys know, I mean, it's January, so there's not that, many good movies in the actual theater. So this one, since we kind of missed it, it's out now, like Phillip was saying, on Amazon, for download, or you can get the Blu-ray, DVD. So this would be something to check out if you're looking for something new, or if you've been curious about Kevin Smith. Here's a reason to go back and start watching all his stuff and see if you make it to this and see what you think. So anything else, sir?
I would just say I'm not saying you shouldn't start with this one, but this would be like watching Avengers before you ever watched a Marvel movie, just because of all the characters that just pop in and out real quickly. It'll be funny, but you won't necessarily appreciate everything that's going on.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, this is his Endgame for now. But I think every movie he makes from now on could be his Endgame.
I think he's probably treating him that way too. Yeah.
But anyway, so thanks to those of you who have subscribed so far. I know we've surpassed 200. You guys just had a milestone. You surpassed 100 subscribers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So congratulations on that. So if you haven't subscribed yet to either one of us, we're going to put Good Times NB's link in the description below. And I know Trina's always hard at work and putting new content out there. We still have lots more stuff coming. It's going to be more diverse, like I said, because there's not as many, good movies coming out. So watch for that. There'll be some toy reviews, some more parts of some of the nerdy trips we took. So anyway, other than that, guys, thanks for coming on, Phillip. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we'll see you guys next time.